we in the church assume that people have community because we really do, at least at some level, have community.
We have an incredible need to fit in.
I think we are much more supportive to each other than at times we can be to ourselves.
What is the church's role in the development and fostering of community?
Some of the most lonely and isolated people in the world are pastors.
Welcome back to the Disciple Standard Podcast. My name's Aaron. I'm a pastor here at Sunlight Community Church. Another great panel for us today. Home team. First and foremost, we've got the Dean of Deep Thoughts, Reverend Dr. Jary Reed in the building. And then we've also got Mr. Multiply himself, Pastor Scott Vander Ploeg, here with us today. We've got a lot to talk about. But first, what's the most exciting thing in your guys' life right now?
End of school year.
End of school year. Why is that exciting, Jary?
Kids are great, but they're a lot of work.
Oh, yeah.
It'd be nice to have a morning where I'm not there at 7 a.m. to hang out with kids.
Yeah, there you go. How about yourself?
My second daughter, Rachel's graduating from high school today. So right after we finish this podcast, I'm off to the graduation.
Is there a lot of nostalgia during both these times, like end of year recap, or even, I'm sure there's nostalgia factors with Rachie graduating. How does that feel? Give me foresight into what I'm supposed to expect.
I'm probably the wrong person to ask.
Okay.
So Andrea, and I applaud her for doing it because I wouldn't think to. She's making it a really big deal. Like, she's bought balloons at our house. There's a sign in our front yard with Rachel's name on it with balloons on the sign. And we've got this whole thing planned out. We're going to go out to dinner tonight. And I don't know. Unfortunately, if it was left up to me, I'd probably be like, great job, Ray. I don't know. We were talking about it last night as a family. For me, if I think about like what were my biggest events in life, graduating high school, I wouldn't put it up there at all.
That's a good point.
It just, I don't know. It's something that happened in my life. I finally finished high school, but it wasn't like I took it as a huge accomplishment, or it just sort of was what it was. But I think everybody kind of like looks at it differently, and I do agree with my wife, who has done a great job with this, which is it's good to celebrate certain milestones, certain accomplishments. So.
Yeah, I think
anyway,
in their lives at the moment, that might be the greatest accomplishment that they've ever had so far.
Maybe.
Like, you looking back on it now is like...
No, because she's already graduated college.
Oh,
yeah, she has.
Actually, that's true, too.
But she did say that graduating from high school is a bigger deal to her than graduating from...
Really?
Yeah, because I think, while she was in high school, she took college classes and she got enough credit, so they gave her a degree. But she wasn't with friends. It wasn't like her community at all. It was just she took classes and finished them. Whereas I think with high school, she has all this community or group of friends around her, and they all kind of proceed through it together. And what she said was she was recognizing that one of the things that was going to happen is there's a number of these kids that she's been with pretty much every day for the last 4 years. She'll probably never see them again.
That's actually totally true.
Yeah.
That is totally true.
So there is it is definitely like a marking of something and the start of something else. And so anyway, the other thing is she's the salutatorian, so she has to give a speech.
There you go.
So she will not give us any hint as to what she's going to say.
I'm looking forward to it.
So I'm kind of looking forward to it.
Yeah,
you're coming.
I'm coming. I want to see.
Great.
I want to listen, see what she has to say.
I think there's like 700 people in our class, so there's a lot of names.
That's a big class.
That is going to be read.
Oh, and she's Vander. Oh man.
Well, no, she'll be at the front because she's a salutatorian.
Oh, even better. We could leave after that.
Means you can leave early.
Yeah, we can leave. Right.
Yeah, you can walk out if you want. We'll probably be polite.
Oh, jeez, nah.
Stick through the whole thing.
I want to be there for the speech.
Yeah, bring Block Blast on your phone.
Oh yeah,
Give
that's
yourself something to do.
right. Yeah, that's right.
Everyone's on a Block Blast.
Yeah, we were in going to Miami, and I saw a bunch of people playing Block Blast.
You know, I got into Block Blast through our middle school.
Really?
Like they all started playing it, and then they kind of peer pressured me to start playing it.
Okay. Are they good?
Are the kids good?
Yeah. Because you're great. You have like what? What's your score?
Yeah. So I think actually Kate has a higher score than I do.
These kids are brilliant, dude. Sometimes.
Yeah, but the highest score is this guy, Al.
Yeah, I don't know. Kate's score might be higher than Al's.
Really?
I have to check with her.
He has
Yeah.
161,000.
Yeah.
700 and some goof.
Kate has a real high score too
Good
now.
grief.
My score is more than 100,000.
How many hours of your life do you have to dedicate to get there?
Well, I don't know if you have to dedicate hours. I think actually, first of all, you have to figure out how the game works.
Okay.
Once you figure out how that game works, then you just have to patiently make sure you don't mess up.
Yeah, that's true. So the middle schoolers introduced you to this game.
They did.
Do you? I guess you have some kind of working relationship with these middle schoolers.
Oh, I like to go joke around with them all the
Yeah,
time.
sure. Well, enough to share a game with you, I guess.
Yeah.
How about yourself, Jary? Are you? Do you get nostalgic? Do you not care about graduations?
I don't care about graduation. I like
Really?
the kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, graduation. I think it'd be more fun instead of having graduation is have a weekend retreat and just go hang out with them.
Oh, that's pretty sweet.
Yeah. Because they put on robes and then all of a sudden they're all dressed up. And it's like, who are these kids? These aren't the kids I've been hanging out with.
Yeah.
And they have to sit there and be quiet while they're being talked to.
Oh, yeah. That's true.
So, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, I didn't walk during my master's
skipped.
degree. Yeah, I skipped.
Danced.
No, I didn't.
Pranced.
No, I skipped. No, I skipped it altogether. Actually.
Well, it was funny
Oh, yeah.
in our family because Rachel graduated with her associate's degree, right? So she didn't sign up for the ceremony. And when I found that out, I said to her, we were eating dinner, and she said, yeah, I didn't sign up for it. I was like, thank you. I told her, thank you. And then Andrew was like, oh, no, you don't. And anyway, even though she was way past the deadline, somehow or another, we found a way into the ceremony.
Andy
She
Bernard,
had to give a speech.
the first lady, definitely made that happen.
Well, and she's a lot better at doing that kind of thing with making sure we commemorate the special events or whatever. And I was like, thank you that I don't have to sit there for the 1,000 names.
Yeah, that's a lot of names.
Anyway,
I think it was interesting that you said that Rachel's bigger take was that she had a community of people around
Yeah.
her every day that she would see, and then now she's just not going to see
yeah,
them.
most of these people she'll never see.
I think that's
again.
totally true. Like, I don't know a single person in my high school that I still even talk
Wait,
to.
what about Corey?
Well, I guess
He doesn't talk to him.
Well, I guess you, guys,
I
you
didn't
weren't
talk
together
to
the
him.
whole time.
I was only with him for 4 months, 5 months.
Yeah.
maybe. That's in my junior year.
But from your graduating class at Centennial, you don't have anybody that you're still in contact with?
Graduating class. Corey's probably the most that I talk to. Yeah, no. But I do have relationships that if I go back to California, if I call him up, we'll hang out.
Kelsey maintained relationships with her high school
Kelsey
friends.
has a ton of friends that she still talks to with high school. I mean, maybe over 10, which is a ton for me.
Yeah. I moved so far away from my high school.
Oh yeah, that's true too.
But I don't, yeah, I'm friends with people on Facebook.
Well, that's a different story, right? That's friends on Facebook.
Yeah.
If you're friends on Facebook, at least you keep up a little bit with what's going on in people's lives.
Yeah, that's true.
As compared to like, you never see or hear from them again.
It's a para relationship though, right?
What?
So what?
Para relationship.
Para?
Yeah, it's like not really a relationship. It's like one way. It's a one-way relationship.
What does that mean?
You get this is a YouTube phenomenon. So
Oh.
you're talking to a YouTuber. So it's like,
You wouldn't understand.
so for instance, if someone watches you on YouTube every day or follows your feed or Instagram, they feel like they know you, but you don't know that they know you. So it's one way.
Got it.
And so when you have like things that are conversations like this or YouTube videos. Even teachers have it. Pastors have it for sure. So you'll know that you preach to people and they'll come up to you and they feel like they know you and they talk to you. And sometimes they even think that you know their name. And I'm like, I don't know your name. I'm so sorry, because we've never met, but they hear you speak on a regular basis. That's a pair relationship. So, yeah,
I feel like I know the kids I went to high school with.
that's true. But you don't know them now. That's you knew them back then.
And if not for Facebook, none of us would recognize each other because we don't look anything like what
That's
we look
funny
like
too.
when
Yeah,
we're 18.
that's funny too. Yeah, I think I saw pictures of you when you got married with Andrea on your anniversary.
Yeah, we just had our anniversary
Yeah.
and we saw some of those pictures.
Yeah.
Yeah, you probably couldn't. If you knew me then, you probably can't recognize me
No
now.
way. No.
I zoomed in on a picture of you. Just say, okay, let me see this guy. Wow.
Yeah. Well, this is a good spot to start talking about what we're going to be talking about today, which is community. Some communities we leave, like our high school communities, our friends. Some we enter into. Some are bad. Some are good. I've got some facts here. Before we jump in, let's start with some sweeping facts. According to the U.S. Surgeon General, loneliness now poses a greater risk to our health than smoking 15 cigarettes a day. In 2023, over half Americans reported feeling lonely on a weekly basis, and that includes people who live with others, work full-time, and attend church. Loneliness is linked to a 29% increased risk of heart disease and 32% risk of stroke. And this one's interesting. A major Harvard study that found that young adults ages 18 to 25 are the loneliest demographic in the country, despite being the most connected in generation online. When you hear these facts, what's your reaction? True, not true, agree, disagree? Oh, this one's an interesting one. Even before COVID, the UK appointed a minister of loneliness to address the growing epidemic across all ages and backgrounds.
18 to 25-year-olds. I don't know if it's true or not true. It's not my study. But I would say the last few years I taught high school, we'd get a break, and kids, rather than talking to each other, would all pull out their phones. So all of a sudden, in my classes, a lot of discussion, so there was community, and then as soon as we were done, there was isolation. And so I could see why they would be lonely, because you're enthralled by your phone.
Yeah.
You see it with parents and kids. I was at a restaurant, and there was a kid and a mom eating together, except she was on her phone and the kid was on some sort of computer. And I wanted to go up and go, pa, 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 put these things away, because this kid's going to grow up awful fast. There's a guy on my street walking his dog, and I think when you walk your dog, you got to at least enjoy your dog.
Yeah.
But he was on his phone. So
You know, like just on that first example you said, there might be parents watching right now who deem that as normal, or
that's not normal.
so like I'm at the dinner table or I'm at a restaurant with my kids got a iPad propped up. They're watching with the headphones on. I've seen this over and over again. I say nothing, but now I'm saying something online. So now it's but and then the parents on their phone, and I'm like,
When my daughter would talk to me sometimes, she'd be on her phone, and I'd be talking to her, and she'd be like this, and I'd just stop. And she said, "I'm listening." I said, No. You put it away, and then we can talk.
Yeah.
You just, yeah. So if your parents, your dinner table, there's no computer stuff. You or your kid. Nighttime, put it away, go read with your kid. Yeah, do anything to connect, because I was thinking about this the other day, just how quickly the years go. And I think the tragedy is, if your kids grow up and you're on something and they're on something, and you grow up and you're actually strangers who grew up in the same house, and when your kids move away, you've got nothing that connects you, because you really don't know each other. So,
Yeah, this is deeper than, I think, community, right? This is more like some kind of passive parenting, or disconnection from your own child rather than disconnection from like a community, which would be the closest community is your parents, right? I guess.
I mean, I don't think they're bad parents. I just think it's the pattern we've learned. And everybody's probably a little bit busier, and we've got these video games that can consume you.
Oh yeah.
And there's always news that you can be checking in on or a show you can be watching. Like we're just overwhelmed with information.
That's true.
And unless you make a conscious choice to unplug, like I'll go to bed and I think, oh, it's nice and early. And an hour and a half later, I'm done watching these little videos. They're cool videos.
Yeah,
But then
yeah.
it's like 11 o'clock. And I think, what did I do?
Yeah.
Like, how did I become an addict?
Yeah. Do you find yourself in that habit?
So this is what I'm kind of just listening and taking it in, and I'm just trying to think a little bit. First of all, it's undeniable that our devices have changed life. And as a pastor who's connected to people a lot of generations, this is my observation that the older generations right now, in general, I'm making a general comment. You know, in specifics, it can vary. But in general, those of an older generation have way more friends, know how to relate to people, know how to make friends way better than the younger generation, which I think is interesting because I'd be willing to guess, I don't have, you have the studies, but I'd be willing to guess that when I was growing up, it was generally thought that loneliness would be the epidemic of people who are older, not the epidemic of people who are younger.
Oh wow.
And I would just say that now it does appear, and this is what your studies are talking about, that loneliness is more of a problem for the younger generations than it is for the older generations. And I know this is anecdotal, but I think that's like my observation is the people that I'm around, the older a person is, the more likely they are to have friends, the more likely they are to be able to, relate to people. And they have the skills to do it,
Yeah.
to meet new people, to hold conversations with each other, to find out about each other, to be curious. And now the younger you are, and again, it's not that there aren't young people but in general, I'm making an in general comment. I think that's where the epidemic of loneliness is. And I do think that these devices might well be the cause. So I think as an example of, so I'm a father of daughters. And one of the thing about being a father of young adult daughters, teenage daughters, is you have the phenomenon of boys showing up and coming around. And so there's lots of boys who are showing up and coming around. And here's what I notice. A lot of young men don't have the skills to just approach my daughters and talk to them. Instead, they try to send a text message to break the ice. And
Come on.
it's
guys.
easier to do, right? It's easier to do. Like, man, if I walk up to this girl, she might reject me, she might whatever. But if I just send a text message, I can take like a little soft rejection, and then she takes a day to get back to me, and now I kind of know. Or her answer is short, and now I know she's not interested, or whatever.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. What I want is I want boys who can interact with my daughter, who can come and interact with my wife and I, yeah, like, I get it. It's how culture is, but I think there's a lot of stuff that's just sort of like missing. And if I think about like what makes for a healthy relationship, it's a lot of discussion.
Yeah.
It's a lot of like, who are you and why are you that way? And that's interesting.
Yeah.
Here's how we're the same. Here's how we're different. Here's what we have in common. Oh, that's unique. Here's how you're stretching me. Here's how I refuse to be stretched.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
If that's the case, and we were talking about school earlier, then at school, what we probably don't want to do is have these kids working on their computers all the time,
It's probably true.
because that's what they're doing all the time
Trains them.
anyway. So what we want to do is switch the conversation so that they are talking, so that they're getting face-to-face interaction with the teacher. A lot more work,
It's a lot more.
but I think that's what we can do to, I don't know, combat is maybe the wrong word, but to at least help kids learn how to relate. It's interesting watching kids talk to somebody my age. Some kids can do it, but I had a kid come up to me one time and said, do you have a first name? No, I said, of course I don't. People my age don't have first names. We just have last names.
Dr. Reed.
Yeah, just not even doctor, just Reed.
Oh, just Reed.
So it's helping them. We're doing them a great service if we will put away our stuff in class and then just talk to them.
There's a lot of studies there, and you could watch on different podcasts or find out, because I'm not sure if I'm not an expert in it, but I've read a lot of studies in the development of technology with the classroom. However, I do want to return to this point here about I said a statistic here which shocked me, and you kind of approved of it, or what, anecdotally. 18 to 25-year-olds are the most disconnected generation. But it's interesting that 0 to 18 wasn't mentioned in that statistic. As a father of someone who's a 5-year-old, my 5-year-old has a ton of friends.
Yeah, she does.
A ton of friends. If we have a party, it is like throwing a party for the whole city.
I'd like to say something about this, because I feel so blessed by this. Like, it really has been a blessing in my life that my kids grew up in church. And we were always here, and they were always with us. And here in a church community, you wind up just being surrounded by other people, and you wind up making a lot of friends. And so, yeah, your kids had that exact same situation, even more than my kids do, because our church has grown and there's just a lot more families now. They are literally growing up with like a ton of friends.
Yeah.
But I think actually that's becoming less common. Like, you're an outlier.
Yeah.
A lot of families are growing up in just complete isolation, and they don't have that community. They don't have those friends.
So I listened to this one video from Dr. Jordan Peterson. He said something to the effect of, you want your kids to have as wide social circles as possible, because in their peer groups, they would have a lot of, just potential friends or business partners or potential spouses or whatever, just a bigger pool to choose from. And the older people, a bigger pool of mentors and people who would be willing to pour into their lives. So I am like adamant for them to speak to every adult and treat them with dignity and respect that they deserve. Anyway, my kids have a ton of friends.
Yeah, and it's really cool. Like, I don't remember what day this week, but one day this week, Tegan came into my office with Rowan, and then we just started talking. And next thing you knew, we're talking about scribble art and what's scribble art. And then we started watching YouTube videos together about how to like draw scorpions using scribble art. And like, I was thinking to myself, that's great. Here Tegan is, she's relating to an adult. We're literally talking about what she likes, what I like, what do we think about this? What do you think about that? And
It engages her mind in a way that peers couldn't do it.
That's right. And I think that's great.
Yeah.
So she's developing a ton of relational skills, which is awesome.
Yeah.
But again, I think it's becoming more and more unusual, which is too bad.
Well, I think to Jerry's point, I think they learn how to be disconnected. It's something innate in us to want to be connected if we didn't have these devices to stop us or hinder us. And so all the way up till 18, you slowly learn more and more. Oh, I could use my phone. I could use my computer for studies, for study sessions, or, I don't have to use friends or get with friends, or to learn something, or to discuss. Like, if you want to discuss an idea back and forth, you could do that online through text or whatever, or you could go face to face in person.
So I wanna just since this topic's come up, just add something to the conversation, which is culture. So I wouldn't have known this except that Andrew and I moved to Africa, and we were living in Nigeria, and we were part of a different culture. American society, forgetting this now, because this was even before these were around that we moved there, it's completely individualistic. We spend a lot more time alone. When Andrew and I moved to Nigeria, it was something that we had to adjust to, which is the community there, the culture there is a community. And it's not individualistic at all. Okay, dinner time. In our culture, plenty of people feel completely free to have dinner on their own, whether in a family, whether by themselves. Never in a Nigerian culture are you going to eat dinner on your own by yourself. Mm-hmm. You're going to be with a group of people. And to be honest with you, it was one of the things that, like, Andrew and I could tell you that I'll say I struggled with is, like, I'm never alone. I mean, I would wake up in the morning and there'd be people looking in the window waiting to see when I would wake up. Oh, okay, you're awake, sir.
I did that yesterday. I was checking out.
You did that yesterday.
And we would just constantly be around people, constantly. I came to really love and appreciate that. And one of the biggest struggles I had when we came back to the United States, both Andrew and I was like, where is everybody?
Oh, wow.
Like, we just came back to the isolating, individualistic culture that is just a part of the United States. And I guess over the course of time, I'd say we've adjusted back. But I think the reason I bring it up is I think there was already a challenge in our culture with a kind of individualism before these came around. This has now compounded the issue and drove us into even further isolation from each other.
I think that's an interesting
There
point.
is no way, if you're living in Nigeria, you don't know who your next door neighbors are.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know the names of their next door neighbors here.
That's my experience.
And they don't
also.
interact with them. They would never share a meal with them. So our culture already is very individualistic. We tend to live indoors. We isolate from each other. And so I think we already have that going against us in this culture.
Yeah, that's my experience totally with Filipino culture. Like,
okay,
people are in your business. Like, they don't care if you're using the bathroom. Doors, there's no lock there to go in. They don't care if you're sleeping. They're right there with you. They're all, and every meal is always, you always have to have people with you. And no Filipino dish is made for just a single person.
Yeah.
It's always made for like 6 to 7 people.
And it used to be people would live where their relatives were.
Absolutely.
And so kids had a natural group already.
Yeah.
You had adults that you knew how to talk to.
Yeah.
And that's changed. So.
Yeah. What does Scripture teach about the need for community, and how does that run against this American individualistic culture?
When you see it from Genesis 1, you see community. You see, even in the Godhead itself, community. The Trinitarian relationship of God, the Son, and Spirit, that the very core of who we are is based on community. You can't get away from it.
Is that part of our Imago Dei, that image of God?
I would say it is. Yeah, and that even when we're isolated, we're really longing for more. I was talking to Pam. We were doing a class earlier this morning, and she said, we're really longing for somebody to say, you really matter to me. And that we can be in a group of people, and if somebody doesn't somehow communicate how much we matter, just not that we're there, but that we matter, then we've lost it. But we're made for that, and so we keep looking for it in different ways. I'm amazed. Like, we were at the Marlins game the other night, and when the Marlins trounced the Cubs.
Trounce is a tough word.
Hey, I'm thinking bottom of the ninth, 2 outs. The Marlins come back to win. But it's amazing that people will find their community going to a baseball game. Not us. We were there and we enjoyed each other, but that you get so caught up in the team because it gives you at least a sense of, I'm a part of something.
We're all wearing the uniforms.
Yeah, and I think we in the church assume that people have community because we really do, at least at some level, have community. Mm-hmm. I think as a staff we have community. On Sundays there's community. We've got, different times we play sports, so we've got communities. But there are some people who have no community. And they're longing for it, and it really is a scriptural thing. to live without it is really to do great harm to your soul.
Yeah, I think it's why we're focusing it on it in this quarter, at least some kind of goal. Because if we never focused on it, right?
Yeah.
What are the spiritual consequences of long-term isolation or lack of community?
If you only have your opinion on stuff, you certainly will read yourself in the world wrong. The way I evaluate who I am, if it's just me evaluating it, is probably not very healthy. It's nice to have friends who can say, well, that's a dumb thought. It's nice to have people on the outside say, here's how I see you.
Yeah.
And it can go both ways. But so I think community helps you get a fuller understanding of even who you are, what might your strengths be, what weaknesses could be. A community's, I think we are much more supportive to each other than at times we can be to ourselves.
I don't know. I'm thinking about something down this line. I think humans have strengths and weaknesses. One of our human weaknesses that could be a strength is we have an incredible need to fit in. So the way we dress, whoever our friends are, we'll basically become them. I think anyone has noticed this. You just sort of like, who are your top 5 friends? You're probably going to become them, period. And or just like them in so many ways, because we just don't want, I think it's related to the fall and this concept of shame. We do not want to stick out. We don't want anyone to notice. We want to cover up and pretend that everything's okay. I'm okay, you're okay. And so we have this incredible need to fit in. As a result, let's say you want to change your life. You want to make some changes in your life. Lots of people say, I got to change this or I got to change that. This is also a human weakness. It's very difficult for us to change. We fall back on our old habits so easily. But there is a way to change. Get around people who are already what you would like the outcome of your change to be. So, man, you really want to become a musician?
Get around musicians.
Don't try to play an instrument off by yourself on your own. You're never going to accomplish that. Get around musicians. You want to run a marathon? Then get around runners.
Yeah.
Whatever it is that you want to change or do, you got to get around. And here's why. Because your incredible need to fit in will cause you. Like, you want to stop drinking soda? Get around people who never drink soda no matter what.
Yeah.
They always drink water. Bam. Next thing you know, you're like, I don't want to be the only person here drinking a soda.
But I don't think that's a natural thought nowadays to like, let me get around people who are like this. The natural thought is like, let me watch a YouTube video or a podcast.
Yeah, and I won't do it.
Yeah.
You can get the information and get some techniques, but and maybe some people by the sheer brute force of their willpower can overcome or change some things about themselves. But if you get around the people who are already like that, you will automatically just start becoming like them. And this is my thought process. I believe it's what's brilliant about God. Not only did he give us a message, a gospel message that's full of power that can change our lives, but when we receive that message, he puts us in a community. And those two things, the power of the gospel and then the community, because you're now around people who embody the gospel, that's one of the biggest parts of sanctification is just like you start to fall in with a different group of people who are embodying what the gospel message is. And man, you want your life to be different, get into that community. And going back to what you were saying about your kids, I think about this all the time. I hear parents talking about, well, I leave it up to my kids whether or not they want to come to church, blah, blah. No. You got to get them here. They should be here all the time. You should drag them here against their will. Why? Because over the course of time, the more they're around that community, the more they will start to embody the very powerful message that the church is all about.
But it's hard for them to even understand that themselves. Like, I'm sure there are parents who might have heard that and say, but deep down, they don't feel the need to be part of the community.
But this is the whole thing. It's like, probably in our pride, we tend to think, oh, I can do it, whatever it is. I can change. I can become a better person. I can whatever. I have the power inside of myself. The first part of Christianity is admitting, no, I don't have the power inside of myself. I actually need an outside power. And I think the first outside power that starts to work on you is the message of the gospel itself. It changes your identity. It gives you a relationship with God. I think your relationship with God just starts to change you. But the second power, and they go together. It's so clear to me in Scripture. The moment you receive Christ, you become part of his church. And that is rocket fuel power. Get around people who are embodying the gospel. And of course, yeah, what you're going to find out is you're in this community. It's a bunch of sinners. We're all broken people. But we're broken people who are humble enough to admit that we're broken people and that we need Christ. And people are, yeah, this is, why do people give up on relationships? Well, I got hurt.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to just make a choice. Well, I'm never going to give my heart again to anyone. And I'm going to bottle up and I'm going to become a hermit and I'm going to isolate myself off. And actually, unbelievably, what ends up happening is something far worse than to somehow figure out how to make yourself vulnerable again and risk it for love. But I do think God's done something brilliant by not just giving a message, but also putting us in a community that embodies that message. We will become the people we're around. We will.
Yeah.
Can't help it.
Talking about 18 to 25-year-olds being isolated. I'm thinking about the high school kids, middle school kids coming to youth group. I'm going to give you another group that I think is isolated. I could be wrong. People, maybe late 30s, 40s, 50s who are married. And the marriage is really struggling.
Oh.
Those are isolated
Yeah.
people. And I say that because as I interact with parents, there's a lot of pain.
There is.
And where do you turn? Like, you talk about shame. So you're in a relationship that's not going like you think it could go, but who can you tell? And what's the answer?
Right.
So I had some kids in class, and they were telling me stuff about home, and Mom, if you're listening, I'm sure you're not, but you and I have talked about this. I went to her door as the kids were coming to the car, and I said, I owe you an apology. I said, I know more about your life than you probably want me to know. And I said, your girls have been talking about it in class. And she said, I'm so glad they have an outlet, that there's someone they can talk to. And I think, but Mom, who do you get to talk to? So I think there's another isolated group. And so we say we'd like kids at church. I'm thinking of kids again. I have a lot of kids that would like to be there, and they say, yeah, but my parents just won't bring me.
Yeah.
Because they don't understand the value of community.
Yeah.
Because if you have a marriage that's struggling and you go to church, who are you going to tell?
Yeah.
Without sometimes just being judged.
Yeah.
As I struggled with marriage stuff, boy, I got some bad looks, and so it's easier to stay away. So, I think
Man,
you're
I'm
right.
glad you brought that up, because I think this is true. When people start to face trouble, often our impulse is to pull away from community. And I'm also glad you brought this up, because I think a lot of people who are going to listen into this will feel lonely, isolated. I mean, my guess is more than half the people who are going to listen to this are struggling with some loneliness, some isolation, some feelings of, I'm all alone. And almost there's going to be some people who are listening who it's to like a fever pitch. It's crushing isolation, crushing loneliness, and it's possible to have that crushing of loneliness and be. There's a lot of people around you. It's not just I'm around people, because you've really got to have some connections and feel valued and
Around people who don't know you,
Yeah.
don't know really what you're going
that's
through.
right.
And you're not free to tell them. Like
So-
yeah, go ahead.
Safe.
I guess what I was going to say is, I wonder what you guys think in terms of advice for people who are really lonely, because it's almost like it's reduplicating itself. First, I feel isolating, and then I tell myself I'm isolated and no one cares about me, and then I start to get a story that no one would care about me.
That's good. Yep.
And then
feedback, yeah.
also there's like another feedback about how like every time I let someone in, they just hurt me. And what ends up happening is it starts to be like several layers thick,
Yeah.
that your impulse, like you would have to just really pierce through all this. But
Yeah.
somewhere deep down we know, man, I got to get into community. I think this is what's sort of brilliant about the church, is that no matter who you are, what you've gone through, I think the posture of the church is open arms. But individual churches and individual Christians might not be.
Yeah.
And so that's part of the problem. So I guess I'm asking, like, what advice would you give someone who's actually in the middle of that isolation, loneliness, but then it's like layers thick like that,
Yeah.
that makes it really tough to approach people again.
Can I speak to this?
Oh,
This
of
is
course.
this is a this has been a ministry of me and Kelsey and mine for quite some time now. I've got a few stories here, but let me get
Do
to
it.
these winding points. So one thing that Kelsey does is that she just takes in these like lonely moms, and I'll say it like that because they are lonely and they're moms.
Yeah.
And Kelsey just kind of like sees the pain or the shyness or and what you were describing here is exactly right, that we've found is that there's like, they were hurt once, they try to come back, they were maybe hurt again or slighted again. Negative feedback loop becomes a solid narrative that now they're building in their, and then the narrative becomes the identity. And now not just the identity for us or for the mom, or the identity for the church. So what ends up happening is that Kelsey is just this rabid Wolverine to just bring them in. Hey, come on here. Hey, let me invite you to this. And what we found is that when loneliness gets to that fever pitch that you were talking about, the yes is automatic. Anna McNall and Kelsey do really good about this, and they use a simple technique. It's called bunko. I've never heard of this game before. Apparently, it's like an underground dice ring in my house or within this ring of houses. They throw dice like it's craps, and they bet money and all this kind of stuff. I might be
Kind
this
of woman you want.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like they're like yelling and stuff like that. Anyway, they start to envelop and fold these moms into community, and that starts to, and it takes money. Like we have a sectioned out budget in our budget for like hosting and community.
Bunko bucks.
But not just bunko, but like dinners when we have people over. And one thing I've found is that this 40s to 50s struggling mom, I don't have a lot of friends in that range, but maybe in the late 20s,
Yeah.
mid 30s range, I have these friends. And I've found at least 4 different occasions that when marriages are struggling, when they're around happy married couples, or at least married couples, the guys kind of group up, the girls kind of group up, and but then we start talking about this stuff and we encourage each other while I'm grilling steaks out on the patio or whatever, and the women are talking, and then we get together and we're all talking, and it's like life. I've seen it over and over again with just recent families in the last year who, I mean, Kelsey will say it just flat out. She'll just be very blatant with it. Hey, it's like communal parenting, like this
good.
communal thing that we do. And then she heard literally say, "Oh, that's so nice. We don't have that." And it's like, you can. So to the advice, I don't know if I have advice for the person who's lonely because they know what they need. It's just they have the defenses up. But for the church,
There you go.
it's like
For the church.
just like rabid Wolverine to like invite people into things that you're already doing, like things that we're already doing. And it's kind of hard because we naturally gravitate to young families who have kids under 5. That's who I naturally gravitate to. But that's why the church is so diverse, I think, is that we could reach people who other people can't reach. Not that we have friends that don't have kids or friends that are older and stuff like that, and they come over too. But yeah, I think that's at least our personal calling that we feel to, and at least Kelsey's, to reach out to these individuals who their marriages might, like at 30s, you might start to struggle with some marriages, and I've just seen marriages kind of like be solidified within a community of marriages. That's my personal experience. But I'm curious, as a leader of church, as a pastor, as a leader of the church, what is the church's role in the development and fostering of community? How do we unintentionally make it hard for outsiders, and what can we do to make them feel at home?
Yeah. I'll go back to youth since that's where I'm spending time. We've started to go to their baseball games and different activities. No big deal. I've done that for years and years. I'm amazed at responses of parents. Like, this is like we're doing something new and different. That their kid matters to us. That they would drive. Yesterday I went and had an early lunch of McDonald's milkshake and French fries with a kid. And, I paid for it. No big deal. When we were done, the kid gave me money. Here's money. And I said, I'm not going to take it. No, my dad. And it's just, his dad was so thrilled that we went out that he gave him money. And so I took the money and I put it in my wallet. And I said, I'm going to put it right here. So it's there. So when you're ready, your money is waiting for you. But it's like amazing that parents are recognizing that. So in that area, I think it's beginning to incorporate their lives as part of ours, and then in the process get to know parents. But it's trying to find time to do that. There's so many parents I talk to. I said, man, I'd like to hang out with you. I just don't know when or how. I don't have, so so for us, at least in that section of our church community, it is, as youth leaders, as volunteers, being engaged with these kids, being involved in their activities. And then every chance I get, I talk to a parent. I tell them how cool their kid is.
Yeah.
And I tell them stories. Here's cool. Here's what so-and-so said or did this week. Because parents don't get to hear that. They don't see that side of the kid often.
Yeah.
Or then I apologize because I know too much about their lives.
Well,
it's just trying to build relationship with these guys.
Scott, you had a big reaction to what Scott said. Scott said that the posture of the church is to have open arms.
Yeah.
I think if we saw the reaction, your head was shaking violently. No. Why that reaction?
Yeah, that's good.
Oh, because I don't think churches are often that open. I think Sunlight's pretty good compared. As I tell people, for a church, it's not half bad.
Not half bad.
I think as churches, we can be arrogant, judgmental, spiteful. And the people that come here we're all so needy, but we're so needy that we don't have time for anybody else.
Yeah.
It really is the message of grace, where we find relief and comfort and joy and forgiveness, even purpose in life. So it's developing a community that says, if God brings someone here, they need to be a part of us, and we need to be a part of them. So, but it's a lot of work, right? Isn't it a lot of work? I mean,
to fight against
on a
ourselves.
Sunday, I'm like, oh gosh, I got to talk to more people. So I say that because I've gone to churches. I think I told you about a church in New Jersey I went to, and for the whole morning, nobody talked to me, my wife, or the kids. And it was such a wonderful experience because I thought it was so funny that we went back next week and nobody talked to us again. And I was hoping that'd be the case. I didn't instigate any conversations because I thought, I'm the new guy. They need to instigate, but nobody did. And I could have, but I was so enthralled by it. And then we never went back. And then I felt superior, of course,
Oh, look at these Christians.
Yeah, he's horrible. So I was the one who was being the jerk. But yeah, we have such a cool opportunity because God's calling people to himself from all over. I'm amazed that like at youth group, kids will show up and I think, how'd you get here? Like, who are you? Oh, I know it's bizarre to watch who's coming. And they're just these kids off the street, at least from my perspective, but they have relationships somewhere. So if he's doing that with these little guys, he's doing it with the big guys.
Yeah.
So look for the people who sit in the back row where I sit.
Yeah.
Those are the ones you're looking for, sit in the corners by themselves.
It's very difficult to counteract exactly that when we've just described a layer of problems. There are individuals that come to this church, I don't know what, 500 plus people on a Sunday morning, any given Sunday morning, just at this location, 200 at PGA. It's like all of which might have some degree of negative feedback loop, some degree of isolation, some degree of like, I don't want to talk to somebody again. I just want to get the word in or whatever. How do we as a church combat that?
Well, let me add something to Jary. Keep that question just a second. You know, it's interesting because through our Center for Church Renewal, we started working with a lot of church leaders who are interested in renewing their churches. And here's what I found out. Some of the most lonely and isolated people in the world are pastors.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
We got another good reaction.
Yeah,
right
why?
there.
Why is this? Yeah, why?
I can have a reaction without a response.
Everything we
Yeah,
said
that was huge. That was a
see what the reaction was.
Yeah.
No, it's crazy. Like, you would think here are people who are community leaders leading a community. They are the most isolated, most lonely people, most hurting people in the whole church.
Why?
Go ahead, Jary.
Because you have to be kind and courteous and concerned up front. But man, if your heart's broken and you're doing this, and like a lot of pastors, Scott's different. He can be like a normal dude. And you see him when you talk, you're a normal guy. But a lot of guys can't be the normal guy. They have to be the pastor. And if they're the pastor, that means they can't do a normal joke. They can't be a normal person. They can't have a normal conversation because people are coming to them for spiritual counsel. And so they begin to, we've talked about this, they begin to become the persona rather than just be themselves. And so they're alone. So I think for guys, the guys who get in trouble as pastors, it's because the group of people that might have been their friends at one point, they now become isolated from them. Like this poor guy who just became Pope. I read an article about his brother. He used to talk to his brother every day, and his brother said, what I missed the most already about him being Pope is I can't talk to him anymore. Well, this poor guy's isolated. Yeah, he's going to have to now live. He's now not a real person. He's Pope Leo the 14th. You can call me, give me a good name.
The Pope.
The Reverend
You a good
Doctor.
name.
The Reverend Doctor.
Dictator.
The dictator.
So they're isolated because, and then you get all these pastors together, and the classes that you guys are part of, but is different. But where I was, then you start talking about your churches, and guys start comparing sizes of churches, and they want to look spiritual, and then they pray, and they have to pray real prayers that sound, dearest God, and your voice changes, and then you talk about your church, and you have to lie about how many people go to your church and how you're changing the world. You ever read these statements of churches of what they're going to do? We're changing the world for Jesus Christ. I think your kids are rebellious. You're not even changing your own family. What do you mean you're changing the world? Just relax. You don't have to impress people. So there's a lot of pressure on these poor pastors.
Yeah.
They dress the part. Like if you go to a convention of pastors, you can generally tell who they are because they all dress the same. Like you say, you got to fit in.
Yeah.
Well, people are trying to fit in.
Yeah. So you're wearing a blue blazer and khaki pants.
Jary, I'm perceiving something right now, and I want to ask you the question. Was there a time?
Are you a screw up?
Was there a time when you felt lonely or disconnected with people around you?
Oh, every week.
Every week.
Sure. Oh yeah, I fight in loneliness. You know why? I'll tell you why. I'll start crying here because you'll make fun of me, but they'll edit it out. Here's why. I really like people, and I like to tease people, but I'm always moving towards community. Like my theme is I'm part of a team, and I'm going to let you know that you're part of the team. But I want you to also include me as part of the team. It's not fitting in for me as much as a place where I belong. And so I work overtime to have people feel like they belong. So I make jokes about myself. So I'm the butt of the joke so other people feel comfortable. When I preach, I will make it clear that I say this again, that I'm a pretty bad sinner, so that pretty bad sinners can talk to me and not feel anything. Whether it's not a lie or anything, it is true that I've needed Christ. So I'm always working for that. But if I find that I'm in a situation where I've extended that and then I don't get the reciprocal, man, do I feel alone. Because I one of my strengths is I think I'm pretty open about who I am. One of my weaknesses, I probably am not guarded enough, and I do that. And so I kind of do a lob pitch in softball, and the person doesn't swing.
You see the reaction. You wait for the reaction.
Yeah. Then I'm alone. Then I feel like, oh. So, yeah. So I will fight loneliness until the day I die. Yeah.
This seems to be close to the chest for you here. Why the route of self-deprecation? Is there another route for that?
Yeah, I would say it would be early on. I'd beat myself up because I would never want to be put on a pedestal because I knew I couldn't live on that pedestal. So if I start the game by bringing myself down a notch or two, then when I do screw it up, you can't bring me down a notch or two because I've already done it. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
So I'm setting it up so that you won't be disappointed with me because I grew up with a lot of feeling like I disappointed people. Now it's a little different. Now I would say as I'm moving towards health, like on the spectrum, I'm at 9.4%. I see so many people who live like I lived. And so I do it because I want them to understand that we can be friends. So the motivation has changed even if the humor hasn't.
The self-deprecating humor puts yourself down on a pedestal so that you could see how they react to it, and you could manage that. What is that? Would you advise that for someone else to do, or is that just a default for you?
I can't say what's good for somebody else. He doesn't do that. Scott doesn't. He works differently. But I think people work differently. I mean, you could make a case that it's a good thing. You can make a case that it's a bad thing. Well, and each time I do it, there may be a different motivation. There may be times it's out of insecurity. When I'm preaching and I do it, it's not. I don't feel insecure when I'm preaching. That's probably when I feel the most secure, when I'm teaching.
Okay.
Because I can honestly be a healthier version of me. Okay. When I'm with kids, I'm that way. If I'm in a group of a bunch of adults, maybe I don't always feel that way. But with kids, I can be that way because the focus is really on them.
Yeah. So now you have, I guess, with kids, the focus is on them, so you can be self-deprecating. But the motivation is that, like, you just you care about them. You think it's funny.
Yeah, because adults aren't always really honest. Like I'll ask kids. I asked them the other day, "You find your parents lie to you?" Of course they do. Mm-hmm. And then we start telling stories. I'll tell stories about, man, here's when I lied. Let me tell you the last time I lied. I said it was the stupidest lie in the world. Here's what I did. And it was me covering my butt on something. And I said, like, why? I did it. And I knew I did it. And I looked inside and I said, why did I do this? And the kids just laugh because they know that's the case. And the other night we were sitting in this room with a bunch of middle schoolers. And I said, all right, you guys, we're talking about we need a savior. And I said, all right, you guys are all going to heaven. You're standing before God. And he's going to let you into heaven, except he says, I need to know the one reason why I shouldn't let you in. And I told him my reason, that I write people off. So this team stuff. If I find you're not on the team, you don't value kids, you're off my team. And or you are pompous, you're off my team. And so there's this probably unfairness in me, maybe some judgmentalism. And I said, man, it's sin, but I do it. And then kids started to tell their one particular sin.
Yeah.
One little quiet boy said, I curse a lot. And all the other kids looked at him and said, you would never curse. I curse a lot. And then kids started talking about lying and cheating and stealing.
Well, I think what you're doing is you're creating a space that is safe to share the most vulnerable parts of ourselves, right?
Yeah. So that's when I feel lonely, is because that's the level I live on. I don't live on small talk. I live on real stuff, which is probably not fair. But if I'm going to have a conversation, it's going to be a real conversation. Otherwise, it doesn't feel like we've really talked.
Yeah, we could get to that, right? I mean, it might not be fair because you just met somebody or they're not ready.
Yeah,
You have to build like a relationship to get to real stuff, right? But how would you counsel somebody then if someone's feeling the same way? Would you? I mean, that's kind of where I was.
I'd say go see Scott.
Scott's not
How
available.
would I counsel them? What?
If they were feeling the same way as you, they feel like they have to, they don't fit in.
Yeah.
They are scared, not scared. No, maybe scared of rejection.
Yeah.
What you said, you feel more naturally secure when preaching. I think it's because you set on the Bibles and the focus is on God. You said you're more comfortable with kids, around kids when you're talking about this stuff because the focus is on them. And then you mentioned your peers, like adults or whatever. How would you counsel someone in the same situation?
I think you learn to accept it. And so you might fight loneliness. That's all right. There's no rule that says you can't be lonely in a fallen world. But then you also understand the truth of the gospel, that you have a friend that's closer than a brother, that your sin has been taken. And so there's a realization that I do pretty well if I get enough sleep and enough time I need alone time to just let my brain spin. If I do those two things, I'm in pretty good shape. If I don't get enough sleep and my schedule's too busy, it's when I turn into a weirdo. And so for them, it's all right if you don't always feel comfortable. Most people probably don't. There are the blessed few that always feel like they belong.
Yeah.
But most of us don't. And and there'll be a day when we all feel like we fit in, just not yet.
Yeah.
And it's okay. But you always look on the bright side of life.
Yeah.
You focus in on what's true, and then you look for community,
Yeah.
and you say, "We got it." So,
P.S. As you hear our discussion, do you have any reactions to Jary's?
Yeah, I have a couple thoughts. I think because of the way God made us, or maybe I should even say this, because of who God is, a triune God, and then we're made in his image. I think because of that, we're all yearning for community, but we have the reality of sin. And what that means is like we're all like porcupines with quills sticking out. We want to huddle together, but every time we get too close, we're hurting each other. I'm being like, I get close to someone, they hurt me. And they feel that way about me because I let them down. I'm a sinner. And so it's like we have these two things. One, we're yearning for something, love, acceptance, a place to belong. And yet when we try to go in there, then the people we're getting around are poking us and we're poking them. And so it's uncomfortable. And then we can get into, this loop that we're talking about where loneliness sets in. And anyway, I'm just thinking to myself, and it really was while Jary was talking about, the gospel, it does strike me. We really have to think about what the gospel says. And in the midst of this pain that I'm discussing, Jesus entered in. He took the step to draw us close, and I guess he was willing to take the quills. He literally got pierced for that kind of love. And I guess this is what I'm thinking to myself, and it's advice to myself more than anyone else. But I think if we really receive the gospel and we think about its message, then we have to become motivated. And I think just in normal human relationships, especially when we're feeling alone and isolated, what we're looking for is someone's overture. Hey, come with me. We're looking for an invitation. We're looking for the hospitality. And we can even step back and wait for it. And then if we don't get it from anyone else, we're like, well, there it is. But I think actually when you become a Christian, and this would be the most brilliant thing for a church is that all the individual Christians in there said to themselves, you know what? I'm not going to wait for someone to come close to me.
Yeah, that's good.
I'm going to take the first step, which people are yearning for. So let's say that you're lonely. One thing you can run through your head is, no one wants to be my friend. No one wants to get close to me. No one ever invites me out to lunch. Nobody. But instead of running that loop in your head, run the loop of Jesus in your head, who took the first step, and then say, you know what? I'm going to look for someone else that looks lonely, and I'm going to invite them to lunch and take the first step.
Yeah.
And I think actually, instead of worrying so much about who's being hospitable to me, and man, I'm not getting enough of that. Who's being loving to me? Oh, no one's showing me enough love. Take the first step. And I think if we got a church full of people, all of whom were like, man, who could I invite out? Who could? No one in our church would be lonely because there'd be all kinds of people who are taking that first step, who are making those invitations, who are doing what you were just saying Kelsey does. It's like, oh, there are moms out there. Let me bring them in.
Yeah.
Well, just imagine if all those moms started doing that with other moms. And
No need for a care team.
yeah.
No need. No need.
So I think actually that's my advice for people who are seeking loneliness is instead of running the loop about how everyone's pierced me, run a different loop about how Christ was willing to come and be pierced on our behalf. And out of that, maybe, I know we're all porcupines. Let me be the one who takes the first step or makes the first overture.
Here's where the discipleship program, I think, is so good. The overture can simply be, you want to hang out with me for the next 25 weeks.
Yep.
See, to me, that I've got like 40 people I'd love to be discipling.
Yeah.
We're just starting now to disciple kids. So I've got a 7th grade dude I'm hanging out with, a 9th grader, and then one of the parents. And for me, that's a really good way to even fight my loneliness, is because it's community. You're talking about real stuff. You're engaging.
Right. So
Go ahead.
you are fighting your loneliness by making the overture
Sure.
to disciple
That's what
people.
I'm saying.
That's something.
And that's something that everybody, like, if we would take, this isn't at all a criticism, but if we'd really take this discipleship stuff seriously, just think of the health of this body,
yeah.
and we would have so many people who are on the outskirts and aren't going to make the overture. But if we make it and say, hey, I'd like to spend an hour a week with you,
Yeah.
man, just think of the people that it would change us and them. And then if their mindset can become through that, I have a community, there's somebody who knows me, now we can, I just think that's world changing.
Yeah.
We've got such a cool tool that we can use here if we will do it.
Yeah, I often refer to this technique, the 5-on-1 technique, at youth group, and it's just so true in church. People come to church, if they're connected to one person, they're not really connected to the church. They're connected to that one person. But if one person's connected to 5 people, now they're connected to the church. And if every Christian at Sunlight, or really if you're watching every Christian in the world, just let's say Christians who took what you said, took the first step, where we all feel lonely at some given time. But if we took the first step, like Jesus, took the first quill, as you said, and the first risk of saying of rejection or no, we would have a much healthier body of American Christians, at least, right? Like, I mean, it's an isolation, individualistic America, but at least in Sunlight.
Yeah, it'd be cool.
Yeah. It's so countercultural if we think about our culture. And, back to some of our opening conversations, now that we got into discipleship here, the thing that happens is 2 things. 1, you build a real relationship, and 2, you talk about things that are substantial. So what's happening in our American culture is, number 1, we don't have any real relationships, and then number 2,
Shallow.
it's very shallow. What are we scrolling when we're scrolling on like TikTok or what? I love the way you put that. I just wasted an hour and a half. What was
fights.
it? It wasn't substantive. It wasn't real. It
It's
didn't
fun stuff,
matter.
but it just,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think we're all yearning for relationships that are about something real and substantive and talk about the deep issues. And here's what's really happening in my life. And we need that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I guess we've come around to like the best ever commercial
Yeah.
for 222 Disciple,
Yeah.
which is like, okay, we got to build a community of people. We got to peer pressure each other to be reaching out to people,
Yeah.
to be discipling, so that people have real relationships. They're talking about real things.
Yeah, and there's no lack of opportunity here, right? Like it's like this is what is normal here at Sunlight, right? Discipleship or even the family meal. Like I think we could do a good job of just like sitting with people who are kind of alone at their tables or whatever. And yeah. What would you say? Let's end on this question. What would you say to somebody? And maybe that's what you just said, but maybe what would you, let's crystallize it. What would you say to somebody who is feeling unseen, who is under that crushing weight of loneliness, who is listening to this and like, oh, that's me?
You're certainly not alone. Don't believe what people say, because we are masters at making it look like we do belong when we don't. Because of the nature of sin. And I think as you get older, you have built up regret. And it's a compounding shame. And so I think like Lewis's picture of hell being, the great divorce, that we move farther and farther away from each other because we can't handle people investigating our lives, so that we become, is opaque the right word? And that's sort of what's happening, I think, as we get older. Is there's so much that we don't want people to know, because we wish we could change things. We wish people knew this about us.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be nice to go back? I was watching a Twilight Zone where a guy was in his 30s and had become this mean attorney, and somehow he was back at his home, and he saw himself as a 9-year-old. And just the pain of seeing the 9-year-old. And he went to his house, and his parents were there. And his mom had died since then, and he saw his mom, and she didn't recognize him. And they were calling the police because of their own son. And so the regret of not being able to go back, and where do you turn? And the only hope is Jesus. And as the church, if we can be the embodiment of Jesus. Look at his disciples. You've heard the story of Jesus applied for his kids to go to get a master's, or his disciples get a master's in education. And so he wrote forms and sent them all in, and the school wrote back and said, we've read over these forms, and the people that you've chosen to be your disciples are all, they can't make it into our program. There's only one of them that we think really could make it. His name is Judas Iscariot. And you sort of get the idea that Jesus is really reaching out to those who are broken and hurting, and that we, if the church, if we will, even in our music, the way we sing and the way we talk, I so appreciate that between songs they're reading scripture, and that it's not a presentation, it's an invitation.
Yeah.
As we speak, whoever's doing the talking, if you want to call it preaching, whatever. It's interactional, so that we hear you. We can't really see you, but we want you to know we see you. I see you sitting up there in the corners. I see you here by yourself. Oh, I see you just left to go to the bathroom. I wonder what's going on, or whatever you did. So that everything we're doing is saying we want to include you, because as Ragamuffin Gospel, we're this ragtag of people who are limping, and we've got open sores that people can see, and his name is Jesus, and he's the great shepherd. So
We all can seem to care about different topics, but I especially see that this particular topic means a lot to you. Why?
it wasn't fair. I think because I grew up astray. I mean, we'll talk about this in a couple of weeks, I think. I just think so many people, I was with a guy the other night, and I was watching him thinking, he just doesn't even know how to talk to anybody. he couldn't look at him. But like guys don't anyway. Like when men talk, we don't look at each other. We look next to each other. So we already have this distance. Guys, you can't. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to touch you. Guys don't know what to do except that if you're from a different culture where if you're a soccer player and you can kiss each other, it's allowed, but generally not. And so this poor guy, he just couldn't talk to anybody. And I thought, he's all alone. And I don't know how to get through that. And it again, it's the gospel that makes it possible. So there's all these people. I've got stray dogs, and I will probably always have stray dogs, because if I don't take care of them, who will? So if God brings people to us, and we don't take care of them, who will? Edit all this out. Like youth group, I love it when the most awkward kid in the world walks up, because I think you're at the right place, because you'll belong here. And so when parents of these kids say, my kid loved it, and I think they should love it, because we are working real hard. What we say is we want to find the strays and fold them back in.
Yeah.
The popular kids will take care of themselves, but you've got all these guys on the fringe, the outliers, as you say. And it's our greatest privilege to say, come on, be a part of this community. Yeah. And when they feel like they're part of the community and they're playing a game and they're running down, in the gym as they're playing a game and they can barely even run, and you think, yeah, you're the perfect kid to be a part of this, because you've never thrown a ball in your life. Yeah. And yet you're a part of this group as we're playing this game. And so that's with kids, but also with adults. Just adults, we have, as you say, porcupines, we got our quills out a little bit more.
Yeah.
And it's our privilege to somehow get beyond that, to be able to hug the porcupine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. Thank you.
Sorry about that.
No, it's meaningful. And it's yeah, I could relate. I'll share a little later, but yeah, it's meaningful. And it's deep and it's rich. It's I've been in youth ministry for 9 years. I've myself felt huge, I'm going to describe them as wastelands of loneliness. When I first moved here. It's something to grow up in loneliness. It's another thing to have it ripped from you, or to have friends ripped from you. That's how I felt. So I deem that as one of the biggest. I continue the ministry now. This is how much I care about it. I deem that as one of the greatest privileges, as you said, to enfold. I agree with that 100%. So yeah, amen. Yeah. P.S. How about yourself? Someone's listening in, feels unseen, but still shows up. What do you say to them?
You know what I think is cool is, Aaron, I met you when that happened to you. And over the course of time, you've become one of my best friends in the world, which I think is, it's amazing. And now, Jary, here, you lived a whole life before I got to know you, but you become one of my best friends in the whole world. So the thing that I think is amazing is that, in some ways, both of you are describing a kind of fight with and experience or wasteland of loneliness or whatever, but I think it's the gospel, and I think it is Jesus. I'm thinking about it because I think it's very difficult to describe. It's only something that you can maybe experience, because I mean, we're telling people it's Jesus, but I think someone who doesn't know would just be like, man, why is this so, why is this Jesus thing such a life changer? Why are these guys talking about this? And I think, I don't know, at least in my mind, I'm lacking some words to describe, but I do have the experience of, because of Jesus, developing deep and profound relationships that really are, for me, life-changing relationships.
Yeah.
And so, apart from Jesus, that wouldn't have happened. That I'm really clear about.
Yeah. All right, gentlemen, thank you so much. I hope this is helpful to individuals out there. If you're listening in, our church is within a season or a quarter of trying to set goals for different areas of spiritual life. We have a book, Invest booklet. You could pick one up in the foyer. I'm not sure if you're online, you could probably get some kind of downloadable PDF or something, but essentially it's this. We're setting goals in different areas of our life, like scripture or giving. In this particular area, community, we have to set goals in. If you're listening to this, maybe this inspires you. Hey, maybe I will set a goal to invite someone to dinner, or join some kind of group, or be vulnerable and take the first step, as it were. I think if we had a whole church, we kind of circled around it over and over again and repeated this, but I think this is true. Sunlight, if you're listening, take that first step, take that first quill, and invite somebody somewhere and build the community of God's people. And I think it'll be one of the best blessings in your life. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. Join us on Patreon for after or post shows. Subscribe, share the video, whatever. We'll see you guys in the next episode.
The future is now.